It is Concacaf Champions Cup week here at Chase Stadium. Inter Miami getting set to take on Monterrey in the first leg of the quarterfinal. We have that and more coming off a draw against NYC FC. Looking ahead to the Colorado Rapids matchup this weekend. It's all right here on the Inter Miami Weekly Show. Back at it again at Chase Stadium with the Arsenal great Kieran Gibbs. I'm Joe Malfa. Happy to have you with us for another edition of the Inter Miami Weekly Show. And Kieran, this is one of those where it's a 3-match week, all told, coming off the match against NYC FC, the 1-1 draw, which we will get into as well. You've got Monterrey coming up now in the first leg of the quarterfinal and Champions Cup. And then on the weekend, you've got a Colorado Rapids team that has sneakily been one of the surprises of MLS so far. It's a busy set of 8 days from end to end. And it's just a tough time to navigate for the group, but this is why we love this sport. It's just nonstop, and there's always something to look forward to.
Exactly right, Joe. These are the times where you look at the schedule at the beginning of the season and you see a cluster of fixtures together and you're like, oh, that's going to be fun. So I'm sure that the players will be, geared up for this week. It's such a big week. I think for the weekend, listen, I think the response was pleasing from a performance standpoint, which was important because after the previous week, it shows that it was kind of more of a one-off. And I thought they played some really good stuff. The football was really good, especially in the first half. I think at the end, it came down more to the being a makeshift back four with Sergio Busquets playing in centre back. We had first appearances of Ryan Saylor, Wayhorn, who I thought was really good and solid for his debut. I really enjoyed the performances of David Ruiz and Yannick Bright in the middle, whose debut was first start,
First start,
which was really pleasing. I thought it was an accomplished performance from him. I like the way he uses his body. He plays forward, and he had an energetic performance. So I think Tata will be pleased.
All that from a 1-1 draw. That's why we have a lot to unpack. So we'll take a look at the highlights from that matchup against NYC FC. Again, over the course of a season, and you'll see it here, things even out. It was a few weeks ago, Kieran, that you and I were talking about the 1-1 draw against LA Galaxy and how Galaxy had a 4-1 expected goals advantage over Miami, but in the end it was 1-1 draw. This was the opposite. This was a 3-1 expected goals advantage for Inter Miami and a 1-1 draw. So things even out over the course of the year. It was a very, very positive response and performance, though.
Yeah, and listen, when the performance is there, it doesn't mean you're always going to get the result. And I think that the main part of the performance was there. I mean, this is a great delivery from Julian Gressel. What is that? Highest, one of his fifth?
Got to 70 assists, one of 5 active players in MLS to get to the 70 assist threshold.
Yeah, that's really impressive. And what a well-timed header from Suarez as well, a man that's really on form right now.
And then from there, it just felt like the second goal was coming, but a terrific performance from the NYC FC goalkeeper throughout the day. It was reminiscent of that match against the Galaxy earlier this year when it was Drake Callender who was terrific and kept the game at 1-0 and gave Inter Miami a chance to come back late as they did. Sometimes games just happen like this where even though you're at your best or close to your best, it just doesn't fall for you in the end.
Yeah, I mean, listen, both teams had pretty big chances and didn't take them. And you kind of sense that it was one of them games in the first half for Miami that they really needed to put it to bed. In the first half, and if they didn't, then it was going to be one of those games that kind of drags out. But the efforts were there, the creativity was there, especially in the first half, and they just couldn't convert their chances.
Especially when you consider, to the point you made earlier, the makeshift sort of defensive effort. You had Marcelo Weigant making his first start, coming on loan from Boca Juniors on the right side of that back line. You had Ryan Saylor making his first start of the season at right center back. You had Yannick Bright, who was penciled in as the right center defensive midfielder. So the entire right side of the field was making their first start of the season.
Yeah.
And through all that, to have this type of performance, again, just kind of encourages you about the depth and the tactical flexibility of this group.
Absolutely. And listen, it's not easy when you have a completely new look back four that haven't played together before. that's completely normal to show signs of, maybe a lack of communication. They didn't always look in sync, but you could do that to probably any team in the world and it would be the same thing. It's going to take time for, it takes time for a back four to gel with their goalkeeper and the defensive midfielders. It's not as easy as just to throw a bunch of new faces in and think that they're going to, it's going to be smooth sailing. So from that perspective, I give them credit for taking the point and looking forward to Wednesday.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I think a lot of people think they're just all professional footballers. Just throw them out there and it's going to be okay. If only it were that simple. It's not in any regard. But within that, you pointed to Yannick Bright. Looked terrific. I mean, he is a guy who was the MLS draft pick this year, just signed his contract a couple of weeks ago because of some of the roster flexibility right now and guys who are missing, guys who are injured, bringing him into the roster. And you've got Redondo, who's on the shelf now for a few weeks with his knee injury. So it's an opportunity for a guy like that. And we did see him as part of that world tour. Everybody wonders, okay, aside from the commercial aspect of it, what does that type of tour and those matches in the preseason bring you? It brings you opportunities for guys like Yannick Bright. He made a start in Asia. He came back here, and he made a start when the club took on Newell's Old Boys. And that night, he ended up leaving the match with a knock in the late stages, but he was tremendous the entirety of that match, kind of thrown into the fire. And now that pays dividends because he comes in here, makes a start, and looks like a genuine player who can help this team going forward, especially in light of the other injuries that are affecting the group right now. But Bright really looked like he fit in.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't look out of place at all. And the thing that I like about him is he showed a lot of maturity for someone of his age. And I like the way that he's always scanning he knows what's around him. He's one of those players that is always checking his shoulders, even when the plays. He doesn't seem like he's involved in the play. He's always looking around him to see, what's going on and how can he sniff out danger or how can he capitalize on players being out of position, other midfielders. I really like him. I think he's very unselfish. He likes to work for the team, and you need that in this league. So really impressive start from him.
I think what people forget about MLS is that sometimes you need guys who are quote-unquote MLS players, guys who come through college, come through the draft. Sure, you'd like to field a team of Messis and Suarez's and Busquets that you bring in from elsewhere, but the roster rules and construction are such that you can't. You need to find hidden gems elsewhere. And that's one thing that, whether it was before he joined Inter Miami and his days in Seattle or now with Inter Miami, that is one thing that Chris Henderson has been top-notch at, and it's why he's been up for Executive of the Year so many times. The way he's able to just find guys like that and drop them in. Even a couple of years ago now, his role has changed since then, Ryan Saylor, but a couple of years ago, he comes in from the college draft, and he's immediately an impact starter on that back line. Now he has to come back and fill in this past week like he did again, and of course, Yannick Bright. Henderson just has a knack for finding players like that, and I think it goes unnoticed over the course of his season. When you have to plug these guys in, it's incredibly valuable to the group.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, Chris has been in the league, so he knows what it takes to be able to perform at this level, and I think that's why he's got such a good knack for finding players because he knows what it takes. So, yeah. The recruitment is such a big part of building a team, and he's at the forefront of that. So a great find, another great find in Yannick Bright for sure.
And Julian Gressel now kind of the trickle up effect going up the field with Weigand coming in at right back. Gressel now able to kind of more comfortably slot into the midfield, which is where Tata seems to want him anyway. Gets to 70 assists at that plateau, and now that's just another, again, domino effect of, okay, Weigand's here, Gressel goes here, and the entire roster just kind of fills out because of it. And Gressel, again, picking up an assist off a dead ball, just shows the value that he brings to the midfield and his distribution, already up to 5 assists on the season.
Yeah, another great addition to the squad. I think we knew his level of consistency was going to be key for the team. So, and another brilliant delivery and a great finish from Suarez. And I thought that Weigand had a really solid performance for his first start. It's not easy to come out and perform, like that. I can see him being a really consistent performer for the team as well.
Speaking of consistent performers, can we talk a little bit more about Luis Suarez? I think he's been sort of lost in the shuffle still with talk about, other guys in the group and Messi dealing with the injury right now on his way back. Tight-lipped about what his status is going to be for this first leg against Monterrey. But Suarez has just quietly, steadily been playing every game, basically scoring or assisting in every game. And I think when the season first started, a lot of people, you heard the whispers of, are his knees going to hold up? Is his body going to hold up? And people forget that he was the player of the year in Brazil last year and scored over 20 goals in Brazil last year. And he's reminding everybody now of what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago when he got his brace in DC. He thrives off of people doubting him. That's actually how he performs so well. I think he's one of those players, and that they're the most dangerous types of players, because the more you doubt them, the more he'll want to come back. It's kind of it's like a reverse effect on him. So he's been a brilliant performer. He's stepped up for the team massively. He's become such an important player for this team. The variety of goals that he scores, I'll mention it again. It's like we don't understand how difficult it is. The way he sees, he can still find the goal. He has his back to the goal a lot more now because he is a bit older. He has to use his body to protect the ball, to bring other players into the game, but he just knows exactly where the goal is, and he's scoring all different types of goals: left foot, right foot, headers. It's brilliant to see.
The only thing he's lacking so far is that chest goal that Messi scored against Orlando way back. You got to give Suarez one with his chest, and then he'll catch up to Messi as far as scoring with different body parts. And with that, we'll start switching gears now to the Monterrey match. First leg, Wednesday, April 3rd, here at Chase Stadium. Need everybody to pack this place. Cannot understate how important this match is. Monterrey, they're already qualified for the Club World Cup next summer. The way it worked, the last 4 winners, including this year's winner of Concacaf Champions Cup, go through to the Club World Cup. So you've already got Seattle Sounders there. You've already got Monterrey there. You've got last year's winners of Club Leon there. The question is, who's going to be that 4th team from CONCACAF to join Club World Cup? Inter Miami is among the odds-on favorites to do so, but this is probably the toughest matchup they will face the entire run-in, at least on paper. Monterrey, the bracket falls the way the bracket falls, and this is probably the toughest matchup. They've won the tournament 5 times, Monterrey. They are coming off a loss this past weekend in Liga MX, but it's a big test, especially with the first leg at home. You always like to have that second leg at home so you know what you have to do. Although some people will say you can actually set the tone in the first leg and set you up nicer for that second leg. So where do you fall on that? Is it better to have the first leg at home and the second leg at home? And if you do have the first leg at home, just how does the mindset have to shift a little bit to set yourself up in a good way when you go on the road next week?
If I had to pick, I would probably pick it the other way around, just because when you play at home, you always give yourself a chance, and if you get 2 swings, you want you want the second one to be at home. So that being said, it gives the team the chance to make a real statement. They're playing against a team that is different probably from a lot of MLS teams. They're going to have to really analyze, the way that Monterrey play and probably adapt a little bit. But the main thing is that, we've seen a response at the weekend, and it sets us up nicely for tomorrow. I'm expecting, them to go out and be mature and realize that it is over 2 legs, and they don't need to come out of the traps in the first 20 minutes and try and score at every opportunity. I think I would like to see them gain control of the match first and foremost, and use the attacking prowess that we've seen so far this season in order to try and get as much of a comfortable lead as possible. That's the way that they have to approach this game, because that for sure that it's going to be a difficult second away leg.
Absolutely.
So to try and get that cushion as much as you can is obviously really important.
At one of the most picturesque stadiums in the world, by the way, when they go on the road to Monterrey next week with the mountains in the background. But this group has actually some familiarity with the opposition, because you think about Brandon Vasquez from Cincinnati, now with Monterrey, so you have a familiar face who's the striker of the opposition. But Kieran, one thing that I don't think a lot of people have talked about, Tata Martino was just the head coach of the Mexican national team, and he's intimately familiar with this player pool because he was always evaluating it for selection for the national team. So as far as MLS coaches scouting the opposition. Just think back to last round when Monterrey was able to get past Cincinnati, and Pat Noonan in that Cincinnati group, sure, they have to do their scout of Monterrey, and they certainly would have uncovered every stone and tried to make sure they knew what they were up against. But I don't think any coach at MLS is as equipped to go against the Liga MX team as Tata Martino is, because he's been there, done that. He's been the Mexican national team coach. He's so familiar with the player pool. How much of an advantage is that coming into this tie?
That is a huge advantage. The fact that he's, had to scout there and knows the culture of how they like to play football. I've played with a few Mexican players. They're high energy. They're aggressive. And they'll try and make it as difficult as they can for you. So Tata will have been preparing his players for that the whole week for sure.
No doubt about it. And then don't forget, coming up on the weekend, then the matchup against the Colorado Rapids, a team all of a sudden under Chris Armas, the new head coach. They've overturned their roster. They're having a lot of success. They went on the road and picked up a draw against Seattle. They just beat LAFC and a 90th minute goal by Georgi Mihailovic. So this is where, again, Kieran, yes, your focus right now is on Monterrey, but then you also have this game against a really hot team right now on Saturday. As a player, how do you just go about compartmentalizing everything over the course of a week like this?
Just taking it day by day. I mean, the thing is, the boys will be in recovery mode still from the game the other night, and so a lot of the time they'll be off feet. They won't be on the pitch doing much, I imagine, just purely because physically you need to save as much energy as you can, and then most of the work will be done in the tactics room with the manager, explaining things on the board, going through their strengths and weaknesses, and it will be done in-house rather than out on the pitch. I imagine the busy periods are always like that. You have to be careful with the players physically. We don't want silly injuries at this time, so that's where most of the work will be done.
Inter Miami CF2 in the throes of their season now, and MLS Next Pro in the Academy is out at the GA Cup, continuing to wish them good luck. And a chance to talk to Victor Pastora last week, who's in charge of that entire setup and the structure from Academy up through the second team, up through the first team. But with the second team now, you had Leo Afonso and Pep Casas, who have their deals signed now and are contributing to those teams. And that's the group where Yannick Bright came from. So, Kieran, as far as the group goes, if you're a Leo Afonso, if you're a Pep Casas, if you're anybody on that group, and you see the way that Yannick Bright was able to just kind of parachute in and have success with the first team, what does that do to your level of motivation as a player as you go about your day-to-day as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it completely raises it. I mean, when you see the amount of players that have come through the team from the academy and from Inter Miami too, you can't help but think that, if you work hard and you apply yourself properly, that you'll get that chance. So these players must be super excited that have joined.
You look at the group, and it was guys like Drake Callender, Ryan Saylor, and Yannick Bright. I mean, the list goes on and on. All guys from the second team who have come up and made a terrific impact on the first team. Benjamin Kramaski as well. Last year started there. Another one who's close coming back from injury. The team has been talking about it every day over the last couple of weeks, getting there and hoping to have him back in short order as well. But again, it's just a testament to that hierarchy going from the academy through the second team, through the first team, and that first team this week coming off that draw against NYC FC, trying to build momentum into the big one on April 3rd against Monterrey here at Shea Stadium. Make sure you're here to support. It's massive for the group. Chance to qualify for the Club World Cup next summer, and of course gain continental glory as the champions of Concacaf. And then on the weekend again, 7:30 Chase Stadium, full week of home games, NYCFC, Monterrey, and Colorado. So hope you're here at the stadium supporting the group, and we thank you for supporting us another week on the Inter Miami Weekly Show here inside the club room on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV.